Muted.
Comment, then you can unmute yourself by clicking the little microphone icon, or you can always chat in questions. So thanks so much. So we are going to get started right away. We're still waiting on a few people to join. But we wanted to start the call with a question for everyone related to the coaching module and how it's been entering coaching detail records and meetings. We've had some requests to actually remove the requirement of adding a meeting first and then creating a coaching detail record, and instead just kind of get rid of meetings as part of the coaching logs and only work inside of the coaching detail record. Just to save a step, we found that most people were not actually using the meeting module to invite providers or themselves to the meeting. So it's just really an extra step at this point. So we wanted to see if anyone was in favor of doing that or if people are against that for some reason. And if you're in favor of doing that, we'll be able to implement that over the next couple weeks. And otherwise, if people really like using the meetings module, then we are happy to keep it in place. So does anyone have any comments about that? Looks like Alliance for Kids is in favor of removing the meetings module. Just so everybody knows what that means, it means if you are to, if you wanted to schedule a coaching, you would go to meetings first and say schedule meeting and say that it's a coaching record. And instead, what we're proposing is that you would no longer need to go through the meetings. You'd be able to go straight into coaching details and just create a new coaching detail from here, no meeting required. So that was one thing that we were thinking people would be in favor of. Like the Denver Early Childhood Council is in favor of that, and so is PCF, and several other, it looks like Boulder. Looks like everyone's in favor. I think we are ready to move forward on that one. We are really working hard to try and solicit a bit more feedback before we make major changes like that, but we had a feeling that you'd be really happy about that. So we will move forward on that. We have a couple of other really important priorities in the development queue before we implement that. And one thing that we'll need to do is make sure that if there are any meetings that don't have any coaching details that are completed, that we'll be following up with that council individually. So we'll do that over the next couple weeks. And then we'll let you know before we actually make that switch, and then we'll make that switch. So, so what would happen to coaching details is instead of having this meetings field right here, you'll actually have a direct relationship to the account from here. And so you would see accounts and you would be able to type in ABC Childcare or whatever childcare site you're looking to tie that coaching detail record to. And then what we've also been hearing as feedback is that we want to have less required fields in certain statuses. So if the status is draft or scheduled or canceled billable or canceled non-billable, then we will actually only require that the requisition is in place, the account is in place, and whether or not it's an assessment is in place. So only those three fields will be required until you move it into the complete and reconciled status, in which case all the regular required fields will be required again. We will also be getting rid of this held status. We'll move anything that's in held right now back to in progress and follow up with those councils individually. There are only 32 records that are in held, so we'll get that cleaned up. And we just really appreciate all the feedback we've gotten related to this. I think this will be a really nice way to streamline the process. And we are really open to that kind of feedback. So if you're experiencing something in other modules that you think it would be really helpful to make a change, please let us know by emailing support@equicolorado.org. Looks like we keep getting resounding in favors in the chat, and nobody is not in favor, so we will move forward with that change. Thanks so much for that feedback. So the other thing we wanted to point out really quickly is, of course, the support site continues to have additional resources added. One thing that's really nice is that we've got all these announcements from OEC, or whenever we actually post an email to the sugar.users list, we will also post it here in announcements. So you've got a running record of any information from any of the major partners, like the Office of Early Childhood, or CDE sent something out, or if Qualistar sends something out, we will try and always post these here. If you get an email that seems like an important, like, guiding email with some new updates and you don't see it on this site, please email it to support@equicolorado.org so that we can actually get it posted, because sometimes we're not always copied on every email. Real quick, we wanted to show the actions speak louder than statuses email that we just sent out. If you didn't receive this email and you do have a Sugar user license, please let us know and we'll make sure you're added to that listserv list. But all Sugar users should receive this information, and we have posted that here. The one bit of additional development that is a big priority over the next week is implementing actions on the requisition record. So we've heard a lot of feedback. Transfers and negative requisitions are a bit of a challenge, and so what we're trying to do is make that simpler and easier by implementing a new actions drop down on requisitions that allow you to do whatever you need to do with that requisition just through that drop down, instead of creating a whole transfer record, and that Sugar will actually do that in the background for you. So more information on that will be coming soon, but that's going to take top priority after we get through these spending actions and that kind of thing. So,
and Lisa chatted in a question, if we will lose any data by not using the meeting module.
So it sounds like Lisa has a question about if we will lose any data by not using the meetings module, and I would say no for coaching. We did have some councils who are using the meetings module for outreach. So what we'll try to do is actually move the outreach information into the communications blog so that it's still preserved. But meetings module won't go away permanently. We will be using the meetings module for systems building, early childhood framework related reporting at some point in the future. So it will still be available, it just won't have the option for a coaching meeting. What you lose is the ability to automatically send an invitation, or to send an invitation to yourself as a coach or to the director or the provider site directly out of Sugar, which you could do in the meetings module, and you cannot do that through coaching details. So that's the one bit of disadvantage. When this system was only for the Denver Early Childhood Council, we actually had an integration with our Outlook email system, and so coaches could actually they could schedule a meeting in Outlook and it would populate in Sugar, and that was all done through the meetings module. But now that we have 31 different entities using Sugar, we can't have that same integration active. So the purpose of that meetings module is not as helpful for coaching as it was previously. So I think it's a great decision to remove the meetings module from the coaching records. Sounds like we are good to move away from the meeting module for coaching then. So great, thanks so much, Lisa, for that question. So the purpose of today's meeting primarily is to go through back entering quality improvement spending records. And what we mean by that is if you've been recording spending, or if you haven't been recording spending that has happened throughout the year, and by spending we mean any purchase on behalf of a child care site using the quality improvement grant funds, then you do still need to get them into Sugar. But because we have a lot of automatic emails that go to vendors and different things like that, we wanted to make sure that there was an easy way to back enter data that you don't want to reorder or accidentally create a duplicate record or anything like that. So we created the back entry process, and it was really with the help of Larimer County and Arapahoe and Adams. So just wanted to call out those 3 councils, and thank you for all your help with that. And so I'm going to turn it over to Mary Ann, who's really been helping the councils do that. And just let me know if you want me to share the screen.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, so we've touched on this a bit before, but now we're going to do a live example. Lauren Powers, who is with Larimer County's Council, has offered graciously to drive on an example that she has to put in the system, because the best way, I think, as I've learned, I've been meeting with some councils and having phone conversations, is to have the person who's entering the information actually do it him or herself. It brings up that question. So very much appreciate Lauren offering to do this. So Sharon, if you don't mind giving Lauren the power. And then in addition, for everyone on the call, I just really want to emphasize, though what we're going through is a back entry order, this mimics, parallels almost exactly how you enter a new QI request. So the variability is very limited while you're logged into EC Connect. So please, if you note that, even if you don't have any back entry, this should be a very helpful demonstration, since they're so closely linked in process within EC Connect.
Okay, so I have a feeling Lauren is probably downloading GoToMeeting so she can share her screen. And Lauren, we did just unmute you, so you're welcome to say hello, and we can make sure that's working.
Okay, hi, thanks. Yeah, I'm just downloading it right now. So
great. Thank you so much, Lauren. I greatly appreciate you helping with our piloting of this. And in addition, just while we're waiting, so what I've started today and then should just send for a final review by Sharon the end of the day is a how-to guide and everything how we're talking about today. So we'll get that up on the support site either this afternoon or by noon on Monday, just to go through it. And I'd also like to encourage, as Sharon mentioned, you know, I've been trying to meet with councils who are located closer, but if you want to set up some time for back entry and or, you know, new QI requests, I know some sugar is new to some of you who are on the phone, you know, don't hesitate to contact me. This has been a great exercise for myself as well, to be able to answer questions that as the person who's merely doing the financial piece on the other end would not be able to answer if I wasn't starting from the beginning. So feel free to reach out if you would like.
Great. And Lauren, I see your screen now, so you are all set.
okay, great. So you want me to just start from the EC Connect side then?
Yes, that would be great. And then again, everyone chat in any questions you have as we go.
Okay. Do I have to talk while I do this?
Do you want us to describe kind of how you got here, and we can kind of help you fill in the gaps a little bit?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Why don't we not have you talk the whole time? It's our call. Thank you. Okay. So I'd even, if you want to go back, even a page to the home screen, if we want to start from the very beginning when you log in.
Yeah.
Great. And my computer is slower than Sharon's, so I can see on Sharon's screen. So there's two options here. You can obviously click right there, or if you go to the quality improvement on the purple bar, you are also able to get there that way.
Okay.
Yep. And then if you, so those are two options. This pretty self-explanatory. Let's choose the site for the back entry request. And now here's a lot of information.
Yeah, do you want me to, do people on the call want me to go through everything that's on the screen real quick? Well, basically, just really quickly, where you are right now is the Quality Improvement Planning dashboard on EC Connect. And on all of our pages, we're trying to put these step 1, 2, 3, 4 to kind of help you navigate. But under that Choose Site drop-down, as a QI navigator, for example, you would see every single one of your sites in that drop-down. Or as a lead coach, you would see every one of those sites. If you are just a director of a provider site, you're only going to see your provider site. So you don't need to worry about providers seeing other people's stuff. You're really only going to see the things that you are assigned to. So if you want to select the right one, Lauren, that would be great. Thank you. And then once you select your site, then you will see all the QIP goals. These QIP goals are directly synced from Colorado Shines, which is the authoritative source for QIP goals. So we don't want to add QIP goals directly to Sugar. You always want the site to be adding the QIP goal themselves or with the assistance of a lead coach or QI navigator into Colorado Shines. And for a while, completed goals were not showing on EC Connect, but we got a few comments about that, and so now completed and in progress and ongoing, all the statuses for QIP goals are showing on EC Connect. And it actually, we just added this column status, so you can see there are 2 in progress QIP goals currently for this site. And the other piece is that QIP goals only sync nightly, and so they are going to sync Sunday at midnight through Thursday at midnight, and it sort of skips Friday and Saturday because of the weekend, and it does actually cost a little bit of money every time that sync runs. We're talking pennies, but it just helps OEC save some dollars in terms of the sync cost. So if you're not seeing a QIP goal after it's been 24 hours and it's not the weekend, then you know that there's some kind of glitch, but the glitch that we were noticing was not actually that the sync was not happening, but that the status was completed, and so it wasn't showing in EC Connect. So just wanted to be clear on that, because all quality improvement requests must be tied to a QIP goal. So without the QIP goal, you kind of get stuck on the QI request form. The other things on the screen are just the actual quality improvement funds that are available. So you can see the remaining balance. That's live updated on every status of spending except draft. Draft does not deduct from that amount. And you also have a couple buttons. You can look at your quality improvement request history. You can submit a new QI request form. And then the last thing is on the left-hand bottom corner, you can see coaching recommendations. And that pops directly from Sugar coaching detail records. So it looks like this coach didn't actually populate any next steps in that coaching log, which you don't have to every time. But if you had coaching recommendations for that site that you want them to be able to see when they're thinking about spending their dollars, then you can populate those on that coaching log. Okay, so sorry, Lauren, for interrupting, but you can definitely move on to the next step now.
Okay, so I'm.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, I want to see, which one you selected, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so this is the top funding, and then I'm going to select the orange enter previously processed orders.
Exactly. And then once you click that, if there was a draft related to this, that would be shadowed out and it wouldn't allow you to create a new one. So just an FYI, so there's not more than one going on.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is discount school supplies. So yeah.
Great job.
Yep.
I picked the one with like one item, so
that was a good idea.
And we actually just got a question, so I'll take this real quick. Can a site go back into a request to see the details, such as the classroom assigned to each item? And they can see the QI request history. Once we're done with this example, we'll show that screen. I can't remember if they actually can see the classroom. I don't think they can see the classroom on the history page, but if the navigator wants to put the request back into draft format, then that provider could go in and update the classroom if they needed to. So there's a process of being able to do that, and we will demo that.
I have a question on entering these at the level. We don't necessarily have that kind of order detail on our invoices from vendors. Is that important?
Yeah, well, yep, the exact question came up when I was visiting with Arapahoe. Since, again, when it's a new order, it's a navigator or a coach, and they will be thinking about this information when the new order goes in. What I've suggested, because the information here is what goes into sugar and what will be pulled by the state, is to maybe go through when we get to the sugar piece and have the appropriate person updated in sugar after the fact, because it'll really help with the information that the state gathers about specific classrooms, etc. There is that kind of half obstacle, though, we realize, with the information of the people inputting through back entry.
Well, and I think also I think OEC and everyone really recognizes that this year is the first year that we're doing this. And so if it's not very easy for you to get the classroom information on an order you've already processed and it's shipped and everything's done, then just go ahead and say full program so that you don't lose time. You know, this is an incredible year in terms of the volume of work that we are all doing. So we don't want you to go back and take time to do something that's already happened in the past because you can select full program. However, going forward, as much as possible, you always want to be encouraging providers and QI navigators and lead coach to think about, does this really benefit only one classroom, and if so, select specific classroom and link that information. And then we'll be able to do much better analysis on comparing rating scores at the classroom level to purchases at the classroom level to coaching at the classroom level. And it just gets us a little closer to being able to understand patterns. Not necessarily that we can make correlations because there's so many variables, but it just gives us our data a little more oomph.
Okay, great.
All right, Lauren, it's all you.
Thank you. So they going to select the QI plan. And then just choose full program here.
Okay.
So that was the only item I had on this order.
Okay.
There was a small surcharge for gas. So can I put that under shipping? Is that?
Absolutely. Yeah, and if something doesn't quite fit well in shipping or discount, if it's reasonable and it's immaterial, go ahead and just put it. Shipping is going to add cost to your total request, and discount is going to remove cost from your total request. So you can use those just to plug in, like, what's going to make this make sense, and that's totally fine.
And these numbers are after our discount with them, and so I don't have what the actual cost of these items were before the discount. So if I just leave discount as 0 for this, that's fine, correct?
Yes, and we're not using the discount field to calculate total discount that we've received from all of our vendors, because most orders, the discount is already going to be calculated for us before you put it in EC Connect. Or through the punch-out process, for example, that's not going to show the discount, even though we know that's a good discount. So that is totally fine.
Okay. So then I'm going to add my documentation here. Is that okay? As far as, like,
that is what we want you to do.
Okay, great.
Yes, this is a great point. This will save you time, where if you already have it saved, you can just upload it as you're doing back entry. Otherwise, you will have to go in through Sugar, find the record, the detail, and then upload the invoice there. So this, if you're doing it all at once, can save you time.
Right, and also I just wanted to point out too, you see this blue button that is View in Sugar CRM. You're seeing that blue button because you have a Sugar user license that's tied to your contact record. And so you can actually, inside of EC Connect, you can hop back to Sugar and reference either the QI request itself or the related documentation, just to make it a little easier for you, but your providers will not see that button. So it won't be confusing for them. They're not going to see all those extra little messages that are for QI navigators or lead coaches. They're only going to see what's relevant for them.
And then, so that's it, and then I guess my name.
There is the box above that where please describe how and why these items or activities will improve. This does need to be completed as well.
Okay, I'll make something up.
And I think this is where, especially for back entry, you can even just put back entry. I mean, it's really for the provider to tell you as the council why they're purchasing those particular things, but it's not really going to be used really for analysis. It's really a place where the provider can communicate to you. So since you're the one submitting it, you don't need to communicate to yourself. You can just type back entered. It is a required field, so you have to put something there.
Okay. So that's it. Can I hit submit? Is that?
That's exactly it. Yay!
And you'll notice there is a little link here that's QI request history. Lauren, can you click on that link, the QI request history? And this is a little shortcut. So if you just did a back entry, you can actually go back and pop in that requisition you just submitted against, and you can go straight to that order.
Okay.
So I think it's RTT. And hit search, and you will see that, you know, hey, look, today there was a request for $242, and I can view that in Sugar CRM. Is that the right one? Did we just do that one?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay, Lauren, that was great. Did anything then, I mean, it was great, it was one line. Did anything not seem straightforward, or do you think we answered the questions relating to, you know, we don't really have that info since it's after the fact?
Yes, no, those were our basic questions.
Okay, great.
And it looks like we have a couple of other questions coming in, so let's just pause for a second. There's one that is, can you go in later and upload, or do you have to do it right when you create? And you can go in later and upload as long as it's not a required document, and most of the documents are not required. So, so we will show that process when we demo the actions step in a moment. And then another question, we have a new red button that showed up when completing back entry today. It's a red button next to the blue titled QI Detailed Invoice. It would not let us complete back entry without uploading an invoice. So what did that red button say on it? Let's see.
That's Katie.
QI Detailed Invoice. So if it is a reimbursement to a child care site, then your QI detailed invoice is required at the time of submission, because the provider would typically need to show you that they have the invoice so that they can receive reimbursement. So I'm guessing that is what it was. So you would want to go ahead and upload that QI detailed invoice in EC Connect, and it's going to make your life a little easier in Sugar, because you're going to have to upload that document anyway. It's just, in Sugar, it's a few more steps than just pushing a quick blue button and uploading the document. And she said, you're right, thanks, hooray!
And then, Lauren, I'm wondering, just to segue into the next step with back entry, if we could go
Sure.
to Sugar for that and see the next steps. A big question that's come up is, do we have to go through the entire approval process relating to new QI orders for back entry? And it seems a resounding, we've already given approval, the program managers have looked at the orders, so we've updated that a bit, and we'll show you then on this example of the new actions. There will only be 3 that you can choose from.
Great. And Lauren, I see you are masterfully using the filter function in your spending module. So do you want to tell people how you did that?
Sure. So I just, in my spending detail, I just wrote create, and then I searched by the requisition account, so I could search by the person's name. Starts with KinderCare.
Great. Perfect.
That we just put in.
Great.
You want me to go ahead and open that then?
Yes, let's go and then just kind of show the second half of the process here. So as we can see, the status here is back entered. Unlike with a new QI request, there are not any emails generated by a request being back entered. Since at this point, again, approval has occurred and it's usually the navigator now or the coach entering, depending on the council, there's no need to send an email since this has already essentially gone through the majority of the system. So if we want to go then, if you notice then under where it says KinderCare, I think right where you have your cursor, it says, what would you like to do? Select from these actions. And if
actually, this is the brand new actions drop down that we emailed about yesterday. And at this point, I think most of you have been used to using the status. And what was happening with status is that there were so many options that it was hard to really isolate what should I do as the very next step. And so we had some people kind of generating blank POs and, you know, kind of running into trouble. So what we did is we implemented this actions drop down, and as you can see, the status is back entered, so you really only have 3 options on what you can do right now on this spending record. So it just kind of helps keep it a little cleaner and make sure you don't accidentally miss a step.
So I don't know exactly what to do from here. What is it that you want us to select?
And actually, it looks like maybe you haven't refreshed, or if you could log, did a hard refresh work? Could you log out and log back in really quickly, and we can see if that works, or we might need to clear cache because one available action is actually not showing up in there. That should be.
Okay. Do I actually need to log out of Sugar?
Yeah, I would recommend doing that first, and we'll see if that corrects the issue.
And Lisa chatted in, she encourages everyone to have electronic copies available to upload when you do initial entries. From experience, it will save you a lot of time later, and if this is how we are capturing detail for QI for the state, we need to do it anyway. Great lessons learned. Thank you. It doesn't show up.
I'm still not seeing it.
Okay, let me see. I'm on the other side. 1 second.
Okay.
And then again, just to reiterate, if anyone,
maybe look at invoice date and the payable to section first while I'm looking at this, and that way we don't lose anything.
Oh, in the Sugar record?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You want to make sure invoice date is completed with cutoff dates in mind.
Okay. I'm not even gotten that far looking where invoice date is. Because yes, we want to, well, and then another example is if you did not have your invoice, you would want to go into, this is the record where you would want to go in and upload it at this time. But we always want to make sure everything matches in order to ensure any sort of audit or record keeping that everything coincides with each other. Exactly as Lauren is doing.
I think we should be all set if you hit refresh.
Okay.
If you want to see.
Okay, first.
Yeah. And then we had a question about the punch-out. So currently, the vendors with the punch-out system are Kaplan and Lakeshore. So one of the small variations between the back entry and new QI requests within EC Connect is if you had selected preferred vendor and it was a new request and you selected Lakeshore, it would say shop with Lakeshore, and it connects you directly to that punch-out. But since we're doing back entry, it does not allow for that in order to avoid the order being placed a second time.
And you'll also notice if you scroll down on the screen, we've actually revealed the source to you as well. So if you scroll down a little bit next to the payable to account or payable to type, there's this little thing called source, and it says back entered. So you know for sure that Sugar knows that it is back entered and it will not generate any emails to vendors. If that said punch out to Lakeshore or punch out to Kaplan, then you know that those punch out emails are going to get sent to Lakeshore and Kaplan once it goes through the pre-approval process. If it just says EC Connect, then you know that it's just sort of a regular order that's not a punch out or a back entry. So that field is not editable because it comes straight from EC Connect. So just wanted to point that out real quick. Great, it looks like Lauren right now is filling out the invoice number and the invoice date. Those are going to be really critical information for your financial person because that's what's going to really tie it back to your accounting system. The invoice date is the date you want it to show up in your accounting system. So it's either going to be actually the date where services or products are delivered, or if your month has already closed for a particular period and you have an older invoice, then you probably want to enter that as the first of the following month. And so that's going to be up to your financial person at the council. So Lauren is actually the financial contact for Larimer County. So Lauren, how would you like to see that for Larimer County, for example?
For us, I mean, it would be, I have it as payable in QuickBooks on 9/2, so that's what I would probably change the invoice date to, but I'm getting an error message.
Oh, let's see. And what did you just try to do? Sorry.
Just save.
Oh, you haven't. Try selecting that action. So from the available actions, you want to change that to documentation attached and send to finance for approval. You can go ahead and exit out of that little error message. And scroll down. Let's make sure you've got everything completed. Is your internet going in and out, possibly?
Not that I know of.
That may be it. So why don't we give it a moment? If you don't mind just clicking on the action piece again, and we can just look at the different action options. Again, these are more limited since this is back entry. As Sharon said, select the documentation attached and send to finance for approval since everything's been uploaded. The first available action is reopen draft in EC Connect, so you can always go back through and it will take you back through the system. The third one, I believe, is actually going to possibly be removed.
So the mark is waiting for provider to respond. We wanted to see if people thought this would be helpful to have in the drop-down values. What this would do is it would change the status to need additional documentation. So if you want to be able to mark a back-entered record as you need something from the provider before you can process it fully, then we could leave that in. Or if really we're under the assumption that all back-entered items are already fully approved and have all required documentation, then we could just remove that as an option to make it a little cleaner. So do people have thoughts on that? Sounds like we are not having any feedback. So I think we can go ahead and remove that option just to make it a little more streamlined. It's really easy to add and remove action items, but what we want to make sure is that we're doing it in a way that is going to be most useful to all councils. So please let us know if you feel like an action should be available in a certain status and it's not, and either we'll add it or we'll say, well, we really don't want to add that action for XYZ reason. So hopefully that makes sense. It sounds like someone else is getting that little server error issue, and I know I've gotten that a couple times. I think usually it happens when there's internet connectivity. Sugar really relies on reliable internet, so if you're on Wi-Fi, that might happen if you're in the middle of something. So, so you just want to kind of check your internet. If it persists, then please submit a support ticket, and we will look into it right away. Mark it as urgent since it's kind of preventing you from doing your work, and we will try to escalate that quickly. So are you still getting that issue?
I am. It doesn't seem to be an internet connection. I'm not on Wi-Fi.
Okay, it might have to do with this action. So this is great. Our programmers are actually here this afternoon. We'll make sure that they correct that action. For now, do we want to select a different action and see if that works, or do we want to, we could move on to the demo of the actions through a regular process and then kind of test out all of the different actions here.
Do you want me to select something else then? Is that?
Actually, let's not, because I don't want to mess, since this is a real order, let's leave it in its current status, and we will let you know when we can get that corrected, if that's the cause of the issue.
So the status stays as back entered. Do I need to change payment status as paid instead of unpaid? Does that matter?
Yeah, if you have already paid the expense, then you can go ahead and enter paid and the payment date, and that just makes it a little easier to reconcile against your accounting system. That's not required. We're not reporting that to anybody. It's really just for you to use as a tool. So if your council decides you don't want to use that, then that's your business. But it's helpful in terms of reconciling. Okay, great. So do we want to move into demoing kind of the regular actions and the new QI request?
I think so. Thank you, Lauren, so much. And do you have any final questions, or do you think we covered everything that's come up for you so far?
Yeah, I think we're good. Thank you. Do you want me to just click stop sharing? Is that?
Oh, that would be perfect.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and we'll get logged into EC Connect. So to get logged into EC Connect, you're just going to ecleccolorado.org. And real quick, if you have not yet looked at the QI spending and approvals page, this is really helpful. We've noticed that only 17 of the 31 councils are actually using the spending module so far. And so what we've been doing is releasing the spending module and all the related documentation at the time that a council requests access to spending. But I think what we're going to do probably is go ahead and give everyone access to spending over the next couple of weeks, just so we make sure people are able to start using that. But you do need to try and complete these 5 steps your council must take to request access to QI spending. It's pretty simple. You're just making sure that you have people in the right roles, like you need a financial contact, you need a primary contact, you need a QI navigator, and then you just need to email ECLA support so that we can give you access to spending. If you don't complete those 5 steps, then workflows will not come to you, and that will be a big challenge probably in your council. The other thing is we've updated the spending submission and approvals diagram, so you can check that out. We also can create custom diagrams if you have a slightly different internal control process. So some people, they're always going to have their coach pre-approve a QI spending request, and some people are always going to have the program manager pre-approve, and some people are going to have a mixture. So we can actually create for your internal control documentation a customized approval workflow that you can actually hand to your auditor and say, this is how it works in the sugar system. So just let us know. We are going to go demonstrate this, but the last thing I wanted to show is to set up your special QI Navigator or Coach login in EC Connect. You do need to make sure that your contact record in Sugar has the right special privileges to submit QI requests on behalf of your providers. And so these are the step-by-step instructions on how to do that. In many cases, we've already done that for you, but it's always good to double check. If you're not seeing something in EC Connect that you feel like you should, you can come back and visit this and go through those step-by-step. Let's see, so we've got a couple of questions. So there is a question, what vendors have the punch-out system working right now? So the punch-out system officially is on Lakeshore and Kaplan only. And the punch out actually means that there's a special punch out button, and you can go shop at that vendor's website and bring that information back to Sugar. But there's also a selection on the vendor account that says, does this vendor accept email purchase orders? And if it says yes, like Discount School Supply, then we will still auto-generate that email on your behalf once it goes through the pre-approval. So we'll go through all of that right now. So, and then there's another question on where on Sugar do you upload documents, so we are going to show that as well right now. So if we go over here and log in to Sugar, this is EC Connect. You can log in right here. No one should have to create an account from here. All providers who are primary contacts or directors already have a contact record in Sugar, and so you just need to follow the steps and the guidance on inviting providers to join EC Connect, and they just need to set a password, and then they are all set. So we're going to go ahead and log in here. So on this home page, again, you can click on Access QI Funds, or you can come right up here to the QIP dashboard or Submit QI Request Form. We're going to go ahead and submit a QI request form. And I'm on Bill's Child Care Test login, so I have some, like I'm with Boulder County in this particular one, and I have access to a whole bunch of sites because of all the testing. So it looks a little different for me than for you. And so what I want to do is select the requisition. If I had more than just Race to the Top, I would see all of my active requisitions, and the only ones that you see on EC Connect are requisitions in the approved status. If it's in preliminary status because you don't have an MOU that has been signed, then it will not show on EC Connect, and they shouldn't be spending money until they have a signed MOU. Any questions so far? Okay, I'm going to hit next. Now I've got a couple options here. I'm not going to enter previously processed orders because that's what we just went through, that back entry. And again, this orange button would not be available for providers. But I do want to open a new QI request. All right. And so when I come here to open a new QI request, I've got a couple of options up here at the top. So immediately, as soon as I hit that button, a record is generated in Sugar. So if I wanted to go to Sugar right now, I could just click this button and I can see that whole record. Also, if I realize, oh no, I've got a meeting I've got to go to, I can actually save a draft copy of the record and come back to it later. The form actually does save every time you enter any data. So the save draft is just to make people feel good that the draft is actually saving. But we're going to keep a copy of any changes on that record automatically anyway. So you actually don't technically have to hit save draft, but that allows people, it kind of lets people know that you can save a draft. You can also just cancel this request. If you cancel a request, either in EC Connect or in Sugar, it's going to reduce the total request amount to 0, but it's going to leave all the detail for you. So if you ever wanted to reopen that draft, you could. So that's the purpose of that. And I can also submit. So the first thing, we've selected our child care site, and we've selected our requisition. So now all we need to do is select the QIP goal. And you can only, the QIP goal category is a key component for our reporting to the Office of Early Childhood. So you can only select one QIP goal per QI request. So what would you do if you needed to purchase something that both benefits leadership management and administration, and you've got items that benefit learning environment? Does anyone have any ideas? You can type in the chat, or you can unmute yourself if you want to answer that question. There was actually a support ticket that was created, not specific to this question, but actually what if a provider puts in items that are related to Kaplan and Discount School Supply, as an example. So it's the same kind of thing. You can only select one vendor at a time because it's sort of a one-to-one relationship. So looks like Katie answered, create a different order. Bam. That is exactly right. So you would want to create a new order. You'd create one that was for learning environment, and you'd create another for leadership management and administration. You can also submit one and create a duplicate record. That was a suggestion of Deborah. You'd only want to do that if you really have the same kinds of items on each one, and for some reason one is tailored more towards leadership management, the other is tailored towards learning environment. But you would do the same with a vendor. So if you have items from Discount School Supply and you also want to purchase items from Kaplan, then you really need to make 2 QI requests for that purchase. And similarly, if you want to use RTT funds and school readiness funds, you need to create 2 QI requests. So Lisa had a question, can you do keystrokes to select 2? No, this is not a multi-select, and that's done very intentionally because we have to report specifically how much money are we spending on learning environment only or leadership management and administration only. If you made this a multi-select, you would lose the ability to report on the total dollars on a particular item. All right, great, thanks everyone. So I've selected direct to approve vendor and Discount School Supply. I could also, if I don't have a vendor in here, then I could actually select request to use other vendor. This is going to show every vendor that's in Sugar. And these have all been added at the request of many councils. So you can select any of these and that will generate the request. Or you can actually add a new vendor to be added by clicking on this link. This actually takes a little bit longer. So we're trying to figure out if there's a better way to do this. We used to just have a little text field. You could type in the other vendor name and address, but sometimes people wouldn't actually type in a real vendor name and address, so that was kind of the problem we were trying to fix.
Hey Sharon, can we just show the Kaplan or Lakeshore pop-up?
Sure.
You select them. So this again is what happens with a new request and would not happen in the back entry. Yay! Click here to shop with Kaplan.
Hooray!
And this will take you to the punch-out.
Or Lakeshore. Click here to shop with Lakeshore. And it says you've got this much money, and once you return, you still need to complete this form, but it's going to basically pre-populate it for you. Great, thanks. Okay, so we're going to go back to Discount School Supply. And we're going to come down to learning materials and do some tests. So 1, 2, 3, 4 test item. I want, let's say, 2 of them, and it's $10 each. Age appropriate level. This will help us make sure that we're in compliance with grant requirements. So a lot of us have infant toddler quality and availability funding. That is restricted only to be used for infant toddler age groups. So you'd want to make sure that you're looking and seeing that the age appropriate level is truly infant toddler or infant and not preschool. And sometimes even toddler preschool is not necessarily okay, but you would need to just look at that and make sure that it would be appropriate to use ITQA funds for that item. Are there any questions on that? Okay, and I'm going to select a QIP goal. And this is a test QIP goal, so it's not that interesting. And then scope, maybe I'll do a specific classroom, or we have this new ability to do multiple classrooms. That was requested by some councils because sometimes it's more than one classroom, but it's not the whole program, so you can distinguish that by selecting that. I'm just going to select a classroom here. Maybe I'll add one more item, so you can just add an item here, and maybe I'm starting to type and I'm like, oh, actually I don't want this item, so I can X out this item, and based on feedback we have made this nice little, this line item will be removed, so I can restore it, or I can X it out, and if it's X'd out, then you know it will come through onto your quality improvement request spending record. but if you add it back, then it will come through. So maybe I'll add in $5 of shipping and no discount, and I could attach a documentation here, so let's just open one, and it will add it here, and it kind of shows me what I just added. I don't actually know what that is. And then I maybe put in provider narrative here, so this is where a provider would say something like, we need these items to improve our ERS score, or something like that. And type my name. And I'm going to try saving the draft first, because it makes me feel good. It says your request was last saved at this time. And I'm actually going to go and click that button to view in Sugar. I can see it here, and you'll notice that the status is still draft. That's because I have not submitted it in EC Connect yet. When I'm in draft, I can actually do a couple of things. So I can still work on this request even if it's draft. But since I really want to submit it, I'm actually going to go ahead and hit submit. And this little pop-up is going to say, you are about to submit this request to Lalania, and she's one of our QI navigators. You will not be able to make changes after that. And I'm going to say OK. So that's going to be the actual QI navigator that's on the account record. So if I come over here to accounts and I find Bill's Child Care Test, I'm going to see on here that the QI navigator is Lalania. So under council assignments, I see Lalania as my navigator, Joni is my lead coach. Lalania and Joni both have access to submit QI requests on my behalf. I can also see that my primary contact is listed as Bill, who's one of our programmers, and the director contact is listed as Joni. So both Bill and Joni also have access to submit quality improvement requests for this account, Bill's Child Care Test. So that's part of those 5 steps to access spending, is really making sure that all of these contacts are set so that everybody has the appropriate level of access. Okay, so now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit refresh. And now it's in received request. So I will have just received a confirmation email. I will receive it as the person submitting it, and if I'm not the QI navigator, my QI navigator will also be CC'd. So QI navigators, you may have been noticing that you're getting some emails that say received request, and at the very bottom of that email there is a link to the spending record, so you can go right from that email to the spending record very quickly. Are there any questions so far? So it looks like, is special approval needed for using another vendor? That's totally up to you as the council. ECLA is not in the business of monitoring vendors, so you use vendors that you have vetted, you trust. We are not going to vet vendors unless they're part of sort of a discount program. So Lakeshore and Kaplan and Discount School Supply have all agreed to a higher discount based on ECLA's negotiation. So we've kind of vetted those vendors, but if they're not one of those vendors on that discount list, then you really need to be the one who's making sure that that vendor is meeting all of the vendor requirements. So for example, you'd want to make sure you're collecting W-9 information if it's a new vendor, or making sure that they're not on the excluded parties list for grants. Most vendors are not on that list, but you just want to do your own due diligence. ECLA will not be doing it for you. How does the discount for Discount School Supply work? Do you submit without the discount, change the amount, or wait until the invoice comes? So if you know what the amount is with the discount, you can just submit the request with the discount amount. If you don't know what it is until you get the invoice, then you can actually update the amounts after you receive the invoice and put that into the spending record in Sugar directly. If there's a variance from your pre-approval total request amount to your total request amount when you go to submit to finance, we haven't implemented this yet, but we are thinking a threshold of $100. If there's a variance of $100 or more, then it would actually send an email to the program manager and just let them know that this spending request actually changed its amount so significantly that we're letting you know. And then the manager can decide whether or not action needs to be taken on that. Okay, so we'll keep going through the demo here. We're now in received request, and it was submitted by me, and it's actually assigned to Lelania because she is the one who's assigned to this requisition. So if I click on this requisition, I can see Bill's Child Care Test. This is my requisition. I can see my funds remaining are $309.47. This is where we want to make sure that requisitions are really assigned to the right people. They're automatically going to be assigned to the QI Navigator on the account record for dollars, and for coaching hours, you want to make sure that they're actually assigned to the coach delivering the coaching services. And I can see a record of all my transfers and a record of all my spending. This is a test record, that's why there's so many. And so I'm going to go back over here and see the QIP category came through as learning environment. I've got my actions. I have a message from Sugar, and I also have payment status, so this can be updated by finance if they choose to, as we said before, for back entry. I have a spot for QI Navigators to put in any notes. That's not reportable, so it's just for your use. So you can make a note like, oh, I talked to the director and I'm waiting on XYZ for, so I can submit for pre-approval or something like that. An approval note, so the manager or the lead coach can actually put in approval notes here, and that actually gets stamped into the email workflow. Most importantly, I've got this payment request information. So I'm not going to fill out this information until after it goes through pre-approval, because I won't have the invoice number and I won't have the invoice date until actually I submit it for pre-approval. Also, ship to and bill to are going to be blank until I get pre-approval. Once I have pre-approval, ship to and bill to will stamp in and will be permanently there. Scrolling down, I've got this notes subpanel, and I can see that the subject is portal attachment. So I can tell that this was attached via the portal because of the subject. The note type is QI additional documentation, and the attachment right here is discount enrollment form. So if I want to take a shortcut and look at that attachment, I can click right on that link, and it will download right here. And I can see, look, this is the attachment I just attached. And I can verify that that's the appropriate attachment. If I want more information, I can click actually on the notes record. This is where you would add additional documentation. So when you get ready to add the invoice and whatever other documentation, you can click create, and then you can add that. We'll go through that in just a second. Spending details. This is where all of the line item information is. So in our case, we only submitted one line item. And the goal is that as long as you've got all your information filled in here, you don't actually even have to click on spending details, because you can see in this list view everything you need to see. I can see the item number, what it is, how many, total cost, what the age appropriate level is, that the scope is specific classroom. Here's that classroom. If it was for an individual registrant, then you'd see the contact who's the registrant here. You can also see that QIP goal and click on that if you're interested. You can just see really quickly, oh good, that's a learning environment goal. If I were really reviewing this as a navigator, I'd want to really click on that goal and see that it makes sense for the particular thing that they purchased and the date it was created. So that looks good, and so I don't need to do anything with those. If I had a QIP goal that really wasn't the right QIP goal, then I might want to reopen that draft into EC Connect so that I could modify that information in EC Connect. Okay, so now I've kind of reviewed this and I feel good about it. Let's pretend I'm the QI Navigator. And so I'm going to select here, either I want to have my program manager pre-approve it, or I might want to have my lead coach pre-approve it. Or let's say I am waiting for documentation from a provider, so I could mark it as waiting for provider to respond. But in this case, I want to submit for pre-approval to my program manager. The reason why we have two options, either program manager or lead coach, is that some councils want their coaches to approve everything, and some councils want the program manager to approve everything. So program manager is pulling from the funding stream record. So you need to make sure that your program manager is on the funding stream record correctly. They should be, because they're the ones who have been authorizing all of those MOUs to be signed and everything, so that should be all set. The lead coach is actually the lead coach on that account record. So if we pop back to Bill's Child Care Test, we can see that the lead coach is Joni. So if we sent it to lead coach, then the email would go to Joni. Okay, so let's say we want to send it to program manager for pre-approval. And hit save. And this happens sometimes where if you've got different people trying to do different things at once, then you might need to select that you want yourself to win. Andre is one of our developers, and this is a test site, so he's probably just doing something in the background. Okay, so now I get a little message from Sugar that says, success! Sharon submitted the request to the program manager for pre-approval, and the status switches itself to pending pre-approval. That also generates an email to the program manager, and that includes a link, so the manager can actually go in and click on the link and view the spending record and do whatever they need to do to approve it. Now at this point, I think we got a couple of questions. Let me see. Our email flow for notifications during this process is a bit flawed. In other words, not everyone is getting the appropriate emails at each step of the process. If this is a personal problem, we will wait for it. But if others are having issues, I wanted to bring it up publicly. So I do know we had a couple of issues with the workflow emails as we were testing the new actions, and I do believe all of those have been resolved at this time. So if you continue to experience a problem, the best thing to do is to forward the exact email that is incorrect to support@eclacolorado.org, because then we can actually see, isolate that spending record and figure out what is it about what's going on that's causing that email to send incorrectly. Or if you feel like you're not getting an email when you should be getting an email, let us know and we will definitely work to correct that. Let's see. Does that make sense, Katie? So it looks like there was a question about discount school supply, and it looks like their discount. And it looks like Nicole answered, there should be a link showing the vendor discounts on EC Connect. We have a 20% discount with free shipping, except for dropship items negotiated for ECLA. So actually, I think that document was just emailed to everyone, but we can post it on the support site as well. We would want to post it, maybe it is on EC Connect, come to think of it. Let's see. I do believe it is on EC Connect. If you go over here under vendors, take a look. What if one person is the navigator, program manager, and all of the above? Is there a way to just order the materials by email to vendor? So you still need to designate yourself as the QI navigator and the program manager. And then you will just go through the workflow. Even though you are one person, you have different roles. And so it's important to segregate those duties as much as possible. So even if it's you submit a bunch for pre-approval, maybe you wait an hour and then you go look at it with fresh eyes. You can kind of review and make sure everything looks good and then submit it to be ordered by the vendor. Okay, let's see. So I thought there was a link on here. So we will make sure that there's a link with all the vendor discounts. on here. Looks like that was removed. So we'll make sure that that link gets added both to the support site and to EC Connect for all the discounts for all the vendors. Okay, great. So I know we're over time, but I did just want to show, let's see, a couple more things. So since the program manager still has not pre-approved this, then I'm not able to move on to the next step. But let's pretend that I am the program manager, and since I'm an admin, I can see that. So I would select pre-approve and send PO email to vendor. If this is not if this actually is a reimbursement to a child care site, then this little message will say pre-approve and send to finance for review and payment, because you wouldn't have to send an order because it's a reimbursement to a child care site, so that would go to finance. So it's really trying to be very specifically directed. Again, if you feel like an action is missing, that's totally possible for your particular circumstances. So just let me know through support and we can add an action here in most cases. The other thing is this audit trail. This is going to stamp in whenever something's happening, so that's just nice to have. And if you ever needed to switch the requisition on a particular spending record, you can do that before pre-approval happens. And you just type in the new requisition, and once you do that, you can generate a new PO on this tab if you're still in received request or draft. Anything else that people have questions on? Oh, thank you, Kristen. So Kristen said an email sent from ECLA support on November 8th had the attachments of the vendor contact list and has the discounts on it. Thank you, Katie, or Kristen. All right, so I think that was most of what we wanted to show. The last kind of fun thing for those of you who are still on the call is we now have this Submit ECLA Support ticket. So you can actually submit a ticket straight from Sugar, which is pretty fun. So you can select your council and what you're asking about and all that good stuff, and you can put in screenshots. And what's really cool, if I'm typing in a question about requisitions, it's going to show me links to our knowledge base of all the resources we have about requisitions over here. So it's a really cool little tool. You can attach files here. We are going to have, let's go back. Instead of just this big blue button, eventually we'll have a little pop-up widget that you can actually take screenshots from the pop-up widget. But we're just sorting out some SSL certificates related to that. So coming soon, but at least for now you can submit a support ticket right from here, which is pretty cool. All right, any other questions? So coming up next week, we will talk about actions for requisitions, and we'll give an update on kind of the coaching related items, and we expect to implement development on those coaching, removing the meetings from coaching the following week. So we would plan on presenting on that that following Friday. All right, so you're always welcome to email us. We've had quite a big volume of tickets, and so we'll answer your questions as soon as possible. Thank you so much, and happy Friday, everyone.